Welcome! This is Birth, baby! Your hosts are Sierra Morgan and Samantha Kelly. Sierra is a birth doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant.
Samantha is a birth doula, childbirth educator, and lactation counselor. Join us as we guide you through your options for your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey.
Today, we'll talk about what other classes to consider taking during pregnancy. Most people know to take a childbirth class, but not many people know about all of the other options out there to help prepare for birth and parenthood.
Yeah, so I think I'm just going to give like a little rundown real quick of all of the ones we'll talk about, and then we'll go into them a little bit more. So you guys can just get an idea on the front end what all is out there. So there are early pregnancy classes, kind of talking about all of the decisions to make, kind of like episode 4 of our podcast, but a little bit more in-depth information and specific to where you guys are. There are push prep type classes like the Belle method. You can also take, I guess, I don't know if it's necessarily a class, but at like a pelvic floor therapist. There are other fitness classes like prenatal yoga. You can take a breastfeeding course, newborn care class, infant CPR and safety classes, newborn sleep classes, and infant massage classes. I'm sure there are so many that we left off. You're welcome to write to us and tell us about them. And we're happy to go into more of those on different episodes. But do you want to start off by telling us about an early pregnancy class?
Yeah, absolutely. So early pregnancy classes, I think they're becoming maybe a little bit more popular, but there's still not a lot of options out there for it. But the basic idea behind an early pregnancy class is that you're going to start learning about all the things that you can be doing in your pregnancy to set yourself up for a positive pregnancy experience. Start talking about some of the fitness things that you can do, what foods you can eat, how to choose providers, and really a lot of those things that we talked about in episode 4. That's really going into more detail specific for your area. That's what these early pregnancy classes can really do. I know that there's some that's offered through like hospital systems. I think Baylor Scott and White has an early pregnancy class that they offer. And then my company, Austin Birth Ed, also has an early pregnancy class that we are launching this summer. So that is going to be very exciting. So what about push prep type classes? What do you know about those?
This is also something that's kind of becoming more popular. About a year ago, I don't even know if I had heard about anything like this existing. So lately, I've had a couple of people in my childbirth education classes for our hypnobirthing class series say that they're taking the Belle method classes, and I hadn't heard anything about it. I had to go Google it. So if you're somebody that's going to go Google it, it's BELLE, and we'll put a little bit about it in the show notes as well. But these are classes that prepare you physically. It's almost like a fitness class kind of, and talks about and teaches you different ways to help prepare your pelvic floor and how to pay attention to certain muscles that you'll use when you're pushing. So I find that parents are really liking these classes, and they're pretty extensive. I think it's a series of, I don't remember if it's 8 or 12 classes, but it's a lot. So especially people that are craving just a little more information throughout their pregnancy. And those that are specifically worried about pushing, that's a lot of people. I hear a lot of people say one of their biggest worries is tearing. And so they're like, I want to make sure I'm pushing effectively or not too hard, but still doing it right. And there's just like, that's really hard for someone to explain to you how to push, because unless you've ever done it, the closest thing I can tell you is pooping. Like that's the closest thing.
Yeah. And I know like local to Austin, there's Sullivan PT who has a class that also talks about pushing, which is pretty cool.
They actually just sold to Origin. So now all of those are called Origin, and there's multiple locations now, whereas there used to just be one. So there's some like satellite station kind of things, which is nice because even people out near Marble Falls there's a couple of days a week that clinic is open. So all of the pelvic floor PT. I know that Ladybird PT also just recently came out with a childbirth education class, and I think that it has a big portion of kind of, I don't know what they call it, but kind of like a push prep.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard great things about that option too. So
I love lots that these of really are coming cool. about.
Hmm.
So many more, yeah, so many more things for people to do if they want to. Don't feel like you have to do all of these things we're talking about either. These are
Yeah.
just if you find them interesting or think that they're applicable to you. So then, of course, there's other fitness classes like prenatal yoga. There are apps that you can download like Expectful. You want to
Hmm.
sponsor us, Expectful? I have to do that every once in a while just because it makes me laugh. Like all the things that I really like. Expectful, I recommend to so many people because
Yeah.
that one has meditations in it. It has exercise classes in it. I think it even has stuff for partners in it. There are live classes on there or pre-recorded classes. So
Hmm.
that's another way to get in some fitness too. So what about
Yeah.
breastfeeding?
Yeah, breastfeeding, there are lots of different options out there for breastfeeding. So I offer or I guess we offer a online breastfeeding course that you can do at any point during your pregnancy that just kind of helps you prepare for knowing what to expect when you're breastfeeding, knowing about some different positions, different things like that. And there's lots of options out there for that as well. And then there's also like live breastfeeding classes that you can go to that are in-person support classes. Normally taught by lactation educators or lactation counselors. So lots of different options. And for people that are planning on breastfeeding, that's something that I think I would really recommend that you do is prepare for that with some classes, with some some of these options because it's breastfeeding is natural, yes, but does it come naturally to everyone? No.
Yeah, I always tell people, so breastfeeding is natural and normal, yes, but so is walking. And you have to learn to walk and you have to learn to breastfeed. And there's also I had a lactation consultant one time. I think it was actually Katie Timms. I love her so much. She's with Milk Diva here in Austin. We'll have her on sometime. But she said one time to somebody who is a second time mom, so she had already nursed a child. They're like, well, it was fine with my first baby. And she goes, yes, but this is the same dance, but with a different partner. And I just thought that was such a beautiful example that, yes, you're doing the same thing, but you guys kind of have to learn each other. And then another thing with the breastfeeding classes, just to make sure it's clear, the one that we have available to clients is a pre-recorded one that's taught by an IBCLC. So it's not taught by Samantha or I. And then there are ones that are local in Austin where you can go in person. There are different lactation consultants that do them. Milk Diva, like I just said, they have one that also has you have like a consultation with one of their lactation consultants with it. So there are a ton of different options. So if you're not in the Austin area, you can also just Google in your area breastfeeding classes. And I know I said you don't have to take all of these classes, but I agree with Samantha. If there's something that you're going to take, I really recommend doing this. And actually, even for people who don't know if they want to breastfeed, because it could help answer your questions and go one way or the other. And please, partners, take these classes with them because
Yeah.
y'all are all going to be tired, but you're not going to have the pregnancy hormones and postpartum hormones going through your body. So when push comes to shove at 3 a.m., when she's struggling to latch or whatever, you being able to kind of remind her of the things that you learned gently, of course. But
Mhm.
remind her of the things that you guys learned in the classes and maybe some of those tips and tricks that could be really disarming and helpful for her.
Yeah. Breastfeeding can kind of be a team sport, especially right there at the beginning. So having somebody who also knows all the things that you know can be really helpful there. So the next class that we have on here is a newborn care class. So what is a newborn care class? Why do you need a newborn care class? What does that look like?
Yeah, newborn care class can teach about all sorts of things. Stuff like changing a diaper, swaddling, how to bathe your baby. That sounds so simple, but really it can be very intimidating to bathe your own baby. We actually have one. One of my postpartum doulas named Jess, who again, we'll have to have her on the show. I absolutely adore her. She is the teacher of our newborn and postpartum care class. We do a combo. So part of it is pre-recorded and you watch it on your own before the in-person part two class. And then the part two of the class is live in person. And that's with Jess there. And you guys come to class and she does the demonstrations and answers other questions. We also talk about relationships and how those kind of change and different ways to nurture those relationships postpartum and how that can kind of be difficult sometimes. So newborn and postpartum care is also really important for the partners to take because one, it helps them feel more confident when caring for the baby. Maybe you want to go get your nails done or go have lunch with a friend, and leave your partner with your baby. And it's nice to know that they already know all of those things. It also helps even the playing field because sometimes one parent has more experience with babies than the other one. And you're 50-50 parents or 100-100 parents. You don't want to feel like one of you knows more than the other one. So I think these classes are really helpful also for partners to understand what might happen postpartum to the one that gave birth, because that can be really jarring and knowing what's normal and what's not. We talk about postpartum anxiety and depression in there and kind of signs and symptoms to look for. So there are all sorts of different ones. Not every one of them has newborn care and postpartum care. We just really think both of those are important, so we combined them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then the next one we have, I think a lot of people would maybe think these are the same things, but they actually are very different. Next one that we have is infant safety and CPR. So infant safety and CPR is going to focus more on, I don't know, maybe more of the logistics of caring for your newborn, knowing things about like choking, knowing, what signs to look out for, I don't know, colds and different things like that. And then
What's a normal temperature, like what
yeah.
constitutes a fever. We also talk a little bit about that in newborn care, but one of the other classes that we do have is called family safety class. There is in Austin, there's Austin Baby Guru. They have an infant CPR, I think is what they call their class. Ours is family safety. It's a little bit different. I think I haven't taken theirs in a really long time. I did train with Austin Baby Guru through their postpartum doula program, but I can't even remember anymore what exactly theirs has. But there's so many different options, and it's nice when you can have options to choose from and you don't feel like you're just painted into a corner. Ours is with, her name is Jess Moore. She is actually a NICU, PICU, and pediatric ER respiratory therapist. And so she comes in and teaches infant, pediatric, and adult CPR and Heimlich, and then talks about all of the different safety things around the house that people don't necessarily think about when they're coming home with a newborn or when they start to crawl. Like, oh, you should have one of these detectors in your house. Like that might not be something that someone would think about, or baby proofing kind of stuff. So that class is really cool. Our last class that we had, all three of the families that joined us were already had their babies. So they weren't even pregnant. There was someone with like a 2-year-old, an 18-month-old, and then someone brought their tiny little 6-week-old baby to the class, which was great. It was kind of funny because the class before that, everyone was pregnant. So we offer those about every 8 weeks. And that's something that people can take. So we try to be a little bit of a one-stop shop. We don't have all of these options available through our companies, but that is another one that we do offer. And then newborn sleep, that one's me again. I am a pediatric sleep consultant. So I have a pre-recorded newborn sleep class where you get 3 months of access to it. There are a bunch of different ones. Like you can go and find a sleep consultant that will do like a group class where you kind of can ask questions too while they're doing it. Mine's pre-recorded, and then if you have any questions, you can email me. I do have some people that want to do a private newborn sleep class, even though I do them. They're like, we already had the baby and we're tired and we just want you to come and talk to us. I totally get it. There's also things like taking care of babies. They have classes that you can take while you're pregnant. The names of some of the other ones are kind of slipping my mind, but can you think of any of the other ones? I don't know.
I can't, honestly. There's so many different options out there.
Yeah, they really just prepare you for what life with a newborn's like and how to sleep shape from day one, where you're kind of setting up good habits so that maybe it's a lot easier. Maybe you don't even need to sleep train if you kind of from the beginning are doing these habits to have positive sleep associations rather than the negative ones.
Yeah. And it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a lot, like there's different classes and different, sleep consultants, and everybody's going to have different approaches to things. So you may have a certain approach to something and somebody else may have a completely different approach to it. And parents kind of need to decide what works for them in their life, because some people want to do like the Ferber method sleep training, and some want to do contact napping until their kids outgrow it. So there's a lot of different options, and finding what works for you, I feel like, is a big part of it.
I feel
Yeah,
like this one is the most controversial of
yeah,
all
it
of
is.
the ones on our list because
I
some
know. I
people are
feel like
like, you
I'm like
don't need
stepping
an
on eggshells.
I know. I'm like, you don't need a newborn sleep class. Okay, I am a pediatric sleep consultant here to say you do not have to do this. But some people have a lot of anxiety surrounding sleep. Some people have mental health stuff that they deal with, where we know that scientifically they say that if a 1 4 hour stretch of sleep reduces the likelihood of postpartum depression and anxiety. So if we could start sleep shaping, not sleep training. So this newborn sleep class is for like 3 to 4 months and under. So if you're going to want to use things like the Ferber method and things like that, that's not really recommended until later. So that wouldn't be necessarily included in a newborn sleep class. There's also a book called Moms on Call, which is kind of a controversial book as well, but it's almost like a little manual, and you can take what you like and leave the rest. And they have a little bit in there on sleep also. So yes, you can talk to people a little bit ahead of time. And for example, mine is very much, we talk about a lot of different options that you can do. Okay, well, if you don't like this, you could do this. And also, if this doesn't work after 3 tries, stop. Just like do whatever you need to do then to help your baby. If you want to just give them a little bit of space to try, here are things that you can do. And you're not a bad parent if you don't do them. So just find, mine's a good way to figure out kind of what you are comfortable with, I guess. Because I haven't taken all of the other ones, I can't say for those. But do your research and just decide what you like.
Yeah, I think that take what you like and leave the rest is just how everybody should parent.
For all
There's
the things.
so much noise out there. Just
Yes.
take what you like, leave the rest, and be happy with it. You can't please everybody. You can't take everything.
Yes.
But these classes can help you figure out what works for you and your family.
Yeah.
The last one we have on here is infant massage. So infant massage is pretty much exactly what it sounds like.
Self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory. There's different options for this. I think most of them are going to be more in person. Sometimes they're going to be combined with like a newborn care class. I know there's one infant massage class offered. I think it's by Austin Baby Guru here in
Oh,
town.
do they have one?
I
I don't
think
know.
so. I
I
think
know
I
Birth Co.
saw
just
that.
had one.
Oh yeah.
Birth Co. has been having somebody come out and do them, and I want to say it was fairly cheap. It was like $40 or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are
It's
different
good
options.
bonding. It's good
Yeah.
bonding with your baby and just yeah, learning some tips and tricks on things that you can do to help them be more comfortable.
Yeah, I had my daughter on Fort Hood, and with the military, they have a bunch of access to a lot of different classes and things postpartum. And I got to go to a little free newborn massage class with my daughter when she was little. And it was really cool because they actually taught me this little move on her stomach that helps with gas. It's they called like the I love you. It's an ILU and it helps work their gas out. And I loved it. It was so cool. And I still use that when I'm doing like postpartum follow-up visits and stuff, and people are having issues with their baby's tummies. And then we do a little bicycle and then we get lots of toots. So
Yeah.
those classes can be really nice. I agree. For bonding, for connecting, for just feeling like you have more tools in your toolbox.
That's what it's all about. Just adding tools to your toolbox. Maybe you
So
need
many
them from a
tools.
class, maybe you need them from a book, maybe you're getting them from mom groups, but adding those tools to your toolbox that you can pull out if and when you need them is what all of these other classes are about. I think that wraps up what we have for today. I think, sometime in the future, we might go into more detail on some of these things, spend some more time. I mean, the topics are just endless, y'all. There's so many things that we could, spend our episodes talking about. But we're gonna
And we
take it
really
on.
are open to feedback. We want to know what you want to hear about. So send us an email at birthbabypodcast@gmail.com, or that's also linked in the show notes, or you can find us on Instagram and send us a little message on there.
Mhm.
So we are happy to, broach topics that you want to hear about.
Absolutely.
All
We'll
right.
see y'all next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Birth, baby. Be sure to tune in next week as we welcome our very first guest of the podcast, Dr. Catherine Milo of Birth Co. Thanks to Longing for Orpheus for our music. Make sure you look him up on Spotify. Remember to leave a review, share, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.